Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the new inMotion V11. We're 30 minutes into this conversation now. Let's talk about the V11. It was live streamed today. If you didn't catch it, it was I think a 30-minute live stream. Started off with Liam from marketing, who made a short introduction before. He also presented us with the new scooter, and then the CEO came on and showed us the V11. What do you think about it?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. There's a lot that we can speculate, right? Because I think I should say off the bat, without any of us riding it, we're just judging it based on numbers. And if I've learned anything over the years in this realm, numbers don't really mean as much until you ride a wheel, in a good way and a bad way. So it just depends. But initially, I was a little let down by some of the specs. But I have to say, on paper, it does fix the problems of the V10F and give an upgrade to the specs of the V10F. So they didn't really degrade by any means. But I felt like the hype
Which was a big problem between the MSP, right? A lot of people were talking about how it's slower.
Yeah. So exactly, there was no slowing down of anything. Everything you got more battery. I think it went from 940 on the V10F to
948, I believe. Yeah.
So that's big for them. And of course, in New York City, where everyone's obsessed with speed, it was trashed in the chat rooms. But I think it looks promising. I want to hear your take on it before we dive into the more details, but a little bit of a letdown in the speed realm. I feel like they could have pushed it a little bit. They could have given us a few more miles per hour. But again, if inMotion or Kingsong is ever to pivot and let us down, it's going to be in the safety realm.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I can't say too much because I work for a competitor now, but what I will say is, if you've been in this market, you always knew inMotion kind of as a commuter-friendly brand, right? So they always focused on usability. They always focused on creating a slim design, sleek product. This is something that's completely different. Not to say it's not slim, but it's definitely more out there. It's more aggressive, right? The suspension is there. They're testing out something new. They've pushed new boundaries. They're kind of stepping into Kingston territory now. They're kind of stepping into Gotway territory now, right? So they're not playing with the top speed, but they're getting closer. They're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, the suspension is so I think initially the price point of it seems too high for their old demographic. It's like you said, they're reaching into a new demographic of more high-end enthusiasts. And I feel like because of that, there are some specs where it potentially on paper could nail it, like with the suspension and those sort of things, but in the bright headlights. And
that headlight is crazy. That headlight is crazy. I don't know if that's accurately measured, but if that's actually 7,800 lumens, I think that's what it stands for, right? That's crazy.
They said lux, very different.
What is lux?
It's just another measurement. So I'd have to go back and we'd have to Google lux versus lumen and see, but they did lux. So no. 7,800 lumen would be wild. I think your biggest flashlight's like 4,000, right?
No. Are you talking about my flashlight that I own?
Yeah. What's the one you own? Is it only like 1,200, 1,600?
The one that I have, that I carry with 4 18650s in there, that's a 5,000 lumen flashlight, and that blinds everyone on the road.
That's what I'm saying. So if it was stronger than that, I don't think that's what it is.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know why they did LX.
There's like 8 ways to skin that cat.
That's crazy. I just try to search it up, and I have no idea what LX means. But
it's LUX.
LUX.
Lux. So it says 1 lux equals 1 lumen / M2, whatever that means. M squared?
Lumens to lux. Lumens to lux. Okay. I can't. I don't know, man.
Anyone listening can look it up and see it. I think it's, what is it, 7,500 lux? Or whatever they said.
I don't know. Why don't you just use the standard? Everyone measures everything in lumens. You
Well,
search up a flashlight, it's
you're right about that. But then also like foot candles is another way to measure stuff too. So it's a thing. But okay, so from my like, let's start with like my stuff that sort of let me down. Initially, I when I had talked to the inMotion people, they were leading me to believe it was going to be above 50 kph or kmh, but it just hit right there. They stayed at it.
why is that
Uh,
important to you?
because if you're someone who wants to cruise at 31 miles an hour, or 50 kilometers, you need to have, like we said before, a ceiling.
Okay.
So I want like a 5 mile per hour ceiling above it at the very least. And I think I put on my Facebook, honestly, if they just had made it 35, 36 or something in that area to sort of match the quote unquote MS Pro first
Yeah.
beeps.
I saw your post. It was 5, 6 kilometers more than
Yeah,
their speed threshold. Yeah.
I feel like everybody would have been content. I don't think they would be like wildly excited, but most people were like, "Ah, that's fine." It's. But I think that the fact that, like I said, the price point is approaching Nikola price point.
Yeah. What
Nikola
is that
100,
Nikola
Nikola
100 volt?
100 volt. Yeah,
What
at
other
least from like
options do you have?
so from the dealers that I purchased from, I think it was running around 2,500 when I bought mine. So this new wheel is 23 or 2,400 from
22.
inMotion.
22. It's 22
22.
from. Yeah.
Okay. Either way, it's still like above the 2,000 mark. What does the 16X go for? Is that what 22?
I don't know. I'm trying to scan through eWheel's website, but
Yeah, I
I
think
can't
that
scroll on their website right now. Let me see.
the fact that it's above the 2,000 market and doesn't have a bit more of a threshold was one of the things that at least the guys locally here were all not excited about, having the
Mhm.
ceiling to cruise. Like if its top speed is 30, and we know inMotion in the past, they start throttling your speed at 80% battery. That's what they
Mhm.
do with the V10F. So you get 31 miles an hour. It's actually worse than an 18XL in the sense that like you get throttled a lot lower on
Okay,
that.
so in regards to price, the Gotway Nikola, the most expensive one that you can buy is $2,300 USD. A
So
Kingston
it's not
18XL is $2,000, and a Gotway M Super X is 22, right? A Monster V3, the most expensive one, is 2,850. So
okay. So
the
it's on
only
par with a Nikola.
it's on par with a Nikola and an M Super X.
Which right. So this is what I was saying before was it's in the price point of the super high end enthusiast, and it's not hitting the specs that those kind of clientele
Mm-hmm.
expect when it comes to
Yeah.
speed and power ceiling. So that's what I think. I think it's overpriced because they're where it sits. They sort of drop themselves in the middle. Like the specs are the specs of like an 84 volt or an 18XL, let's just say, in the sense of like speed and potential range.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the battery is just.
You know
You
what?
could probably tell me better. The battery seems a little small, but I'm not sure if it's one for one. Like a 14, 20 watt hour battery. If
What I'll
right, it
say
can go
is
further.
given my experience of riding an inMotion wheel, is that if that wheel is 1,400 watt hours, as they stated, it's gonna feel more like a King Song's like 900 watt hour wheel, because they have that speed threshold. They're heavier on safety than King Song. They
Right,
like to speed limit you even sooner.
right. Like I said, like 80% was what the V10F did.
Yeah, so when I was out riding in New York during the NYEF, my buddy had a V10F. Every time we rode from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and when we came back, every time he crossed that bridge all the time, he would slow down. And we still had like 30 minutes more to go. And we just cruised really slowly. It's very annoying. You
I
never
mean,
want to be the
super
guys.
unfair advantage since Gotway doesn't limit you to like 30%.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, I remember even if you recall when the 16X came out, they were not throttling you till like 30 or 40%. It was like the lowest we'd ever seen from King Song. And then I guess new firmware changed it and they raised it up super high, and everybody complained like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then I think they put it in between. They split the
Well,
difference.
just so you know, just so everyone knows who's listening to this podcast, we do have the new app coming out. Actually, the APK, the Android version, should be out within the next few days, hopefully. But the expected release date is still going to be end of May, and so is the Apple version. If enough people reach out and say and tell me issues about the firmware, I'll definitely reflect that to the team. I have seen one or two. I haven't seen a lot. Maybe that's because I don't own a 16X yet, and I haven't been in this role long enough. But it hasn't been a big issue yet, is what I'll say, amongst majority of people who own a 16X. But yeah, going back to the enthusiast thing, I know we're getting to a high price point, but why do enthusiasts always have to go for speed? I'm not a speed enthusiast. I like to go fast, but let's be honest. Even on a straight plain road, there are rarely times where I maintain a steady 50. I'll play within that 40 mark, 40 to 50, and that's just fine. That's plenty fast, and I'll carve and I'll enjoy the speed. I'll enjoy everything else the wheel has to offer rather than just top speed. Why does it always have to be about top speed?
I don't know, but I would ask you this question. Don't you enjoy that you almost never, and I would argue probably you never have, gotten the speed beeps to tell you to slow down on your Nikola?
I haven't gotten the speed beeps on my Kingsong, on my Kingsong 18 XL.
So I'm down here in Florida right now, and there's just wide open flat roads here, and I was still cruising. I was doing my app and seeing what I was doing, and 30 to 35 is where I was cruising, even here, with no one around. So it's just like that thing of like, you know what I hated the most on all of my Kingsong wheels as I progressed? At first, it wasn't an issue as much. It was just like cruising, and then I just happened to go a little bit faster, and then it's like that dreadful beep, 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 and you're like, oh. So
I get what you're saying, but this is what I have to. Okay, so the reason I would buy a Gotway is because of speed, but I've realized I don't utilize that speed enough. So what is the point of me buying a Gotway? None, therefore. I'd rather I have that range. The wheel that offers the most range on the market are Kingsong wheels. So if you have more range, yes, you go slower at the start than an M Super X because you don't have that top speed, but you're still going at 50. That M Super X will have to stop to charge because it's not as efficient. None of the M Super X wheels, unless modified by a third party, have been more efficient than a Kingsong 18XL. You can get the most range out of your Kingsong 18XL.
If you remember when we rode at NYEF, after we crossed over the bridge, I was putting my camera gear away, and then the both of us were riding up 3rd Avenue together, trying to catch up to the group. And I'm sure you weren't at top end on the Nikola, but like I was basically keeping up with my 16X. I was full bore. I'm like one of the few people on the planet that had no issues with my 16X whatsoever, and I would just sit inside the tilt back that whole ride up 3rd Avenue. So
hey, that's when you know. You get so comfortable riding that, like, just like if tiltback is like 23 kilometers, you're like 22.8.
Yeah. Basically, for anyone who's listening or watching, like, you know, it tilts your feet backwards, but I learned how to get comfortable and like ride like I'm a jockey on a horse where my feet were slightly tilted up and I would keep it there. And basically because unless you're super like fit or flexible, your feet going up like that, it's like impossible to stay for a long time. So I knew like when I got a certain level of uncomfortable, I was pushing too hard. You know, so I just kind of figured out that sweet spot of just sitting, because the tilt back is sort of like a little pocket. So I was like just inside the bottom of that pocket.
Hey, you know what? That's only something that, I mean, I haven't felt a tilt back of a Gotway really, unless I screwed up on the settings. But on a Kingsong wheel, it has always been like that, and it's so amazing, especially when you move from a 9-bot E+. I think they they slowed it down from I think 24 to 22 kilometers. And so the minute you hit like 23, you would go full tilt back. So you had to maintain the fastest speed possible, 22.8 because it would, if you hit 23, you would tilt up and you would slow down immediately, and you would slide off because that was not grip tape. That was rubber with metal as your pedals.
Oh gosh.
So in the rain, if you hit that tilt back, that was you basically going off behind your wheel and your wheel going forward still.
Jeez.
So that was
Ghost Ride City.
Yeah, yeah. No, I haven't ridden the 16X yet. I think I've took it for a couple of spins when I was back in Toronto, but I've yet to fully test out that wheel. I want to test it the way Kuchi did, which was like hard acceleration, which is the strong point, right, of 16-inch wheels, is that they're able to accelerate and decelerate so quickly.
I used to say, and I still stand by it, unless they change the firmware. It was the fastest wheel off the line out of all EUCs. It was the 16X. The only problem with it is, if for whatever reason you need to do that, if you need to go full tilt off from zero, because of the way physics works and the way they've tuned the machine, you're going to get speed throttled way below 31 miles an hour, because it's thinking ahead of, if you kept this rate of speed exponentially, you would way blow through the 31. So basically, if you went full tilt, I think you were at like 23. I would slam it to tilt back.
Wow. Okay.
So because it's all exponential. So, but it is so nice for the 16X that, like, if you're cruising at 20 or whatever, and you want to just like zoom up and around somebody or whatever, like, the power is there for that acceleration.
I already know who's gonna have an opinion with that. You already know it's Vinny. Vinny from New York. He's always gonna say that M Super, the 100 volt, nothing will be a 100 volt off the line. You know, I don't know.
No,
I haven't.
It's Troll City, because now he's like, now the Monster is the best. But any of us who know them, because that's what he rides now. He got rid of the NSX. Yeah. So it's like, it's whatever he's on is the best. So it is what it is. But the Monster is like the most awful shell in the game, and there's a lot of things wrong with that wheel for me. But
okay, well, I think, does this conclude our conversation? It's been 50 minutes.
So real quick, what was your favorite? What's the best thing about the V11 that you think makes it promising for release?
Let me tell you things that I felt were really disappointing, because that's easier to remember. I'll be honest with you. Okay. So the fact that stand was like a tiny metal rod, that looked like a Chinatown iPhone stand that you bought for like 50 cents. Like that was wobbly, and your wheel is like 25 kilos. How is that? It doesn't seem stable. It seems like you're better off 3D printing your mudguard / stand, you know? I felt that the front of the wheel and the back of the wheel were well thought out, but then the center of the body was just completely forgotten. They didn't connect. The body didn't come together. It's three pieces, right? Front, back, and center. Center being the suspension. It just felt like the suspension part was just forgotten, right?
Because to me, it looked like a saddle. The way
it kind of reminded me of an old like air wheel, like one of those wheels. Damn, I want to show you, but one of those. Maybe I can pull one up. Like one of those old air wheels, like the way that it seemed like bigger at the top. That was.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to come with a seat too. So.
I don't know. They haven't said anything. The handle was a dinky little thing at the top as well.
I don't understand that. Yeah, the handle. Didn't he was saying something about it was like would handle better in like a crash or something like that?
Okay, this is what I was. Okay, imagine this wheel. Imagine this wheel, but with one wheel. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Right. Yeah.
Because the center of the body felt so disconnected from the front and left. That's all I saw. But that's just me.
There was, I think that, so the specs were, there's some things that were promising. So like it's an 84 volt wheel.
Yeah.
If we learned anything from the 9bot Z10 is that that's like a 58 or a 67 volt wheel, but performs like an 84. So if there's any silver lining in my head is like sometimes a lower voltage wheel can perform like a higher voltage depending on how they do all the internals.
Keep in mind that wheel also had plenty of issues, whether it's motherboard or BMS. So perhaps you could do that, but perhaps that's also one of the issues causing those problems. So
yeah, it says it can take a 35-degree hill. I'm pretty sure the MSP can do that too.
I need to see 50 degrees. I don't know.
Do you remember when Kuji tested the 16X, what degree Millie or whoever had told him the hill is behind the Kingsong factory? I feel like 16X should still probably beat this in a hill climb.
I think any smaller wheel is going to beat any of the bigger wheels in a hill climb in a torque test.
What I was told is this V11, it was so I feel like it's such a small market, but it was geared towards the like off-roading, long-distance people. I feel like I don't have actual data, but I don't know how many people are the long distance and off-road. But if that's the case, why is it only 1420 battery, 1420 watt hour? Like not 1845 or 1800 like the 16X.
Well, I mean, if you put in a suspension, right? If you put in a suspension, you're gonna lose out space for batteries. So it made sense for me. I mean, I knew what everyone wanted, right? But it's hard to achieve. I think without you have to remember, like for me, when I had the Gotway Nikola, I felt that wheel was too heavy. I'd rather have a wheel that was lighter because it's more maneuverable. And when I had the MSP, not the the MSX, I felt that was better than actually a Nikola. I could have carved downtown New York, no problem. But on the Nikola, it felt awkward, and I had that wheel for a little bit already.
That's what I said about the 16X. I think the form factor of that. Some people, I really liked it aesthetically, but I think because it had that Cybertruck kind of more Tesla up and down vertical form factor, really lent it to being I think it's the most maneuverable wheel out there. Whereas the Nikola, it's so fat out front. There's so much. It's like a giant pickup truck with a huge, motor in the front. Like there's just so much in front of your legs that it's like a boat to try to turn it, left and right. So I agree with you that like the Nikola is heavier, and I just think
it's also top heavy. You have the 100 volt, right? It's like top heavy because the motherboard goes down compared to the 84 volt where the motherboard's at the top. Of course.
It's completely it's not I don't mean like the way Vinny would say anything I ride is just the best wheel on the planet. I don't think it's the best wheel on the planet for other people. I think for me it's the best it's giving me the best. There's no perfect wheel, right? But it's giving me all of what I need and want right now. So that's why I like it. I'll take the flaws because there's gonna be some with every wheel.
Well, okay, well that's my flaws for the V11, but I think positives to take away from that are they're innovating. I think it's always great. I think it's been a while since we've seen innovation. I think we had to have a cool down period where everyone, added more batteries, got more speed. We were there for, I think a year or two now. We've been there. Now it's time to innovate. And I had always wanted suspension. We've seen DIY Russians, some guys in the US put out like spring suspension, and we've always wanted that. That's going to be really good for off-roading. If you're doing black diamond trails, you're not going to be needing all that distance. You get tired. You don't want to go to that nearby McDonald's and charge up and that's me at least. Because when I did black diamond trails in Toronto, it's tiring. You don't go fast, so there's not even a point of doing 50 kilometers an hour because there's turns everywhere, and if you fall off, you're going off a cliff. So you don't need 50 kilometers. Really, it's torque that you're worried about, right? And ground clearance.
Yeah.
That's also one thing we didn't talk about, ground clearance. How's that going to be on the V11?
Well, it depends on how low it travels. In the 70 millimeter travel it's given.
Did they say how low it was before it went up or down?
I don't think I went to the website and saw the spec list, but I don't think that was mentioned. Some people online have been complaining that there was like certain key details that they left out of the talk itself, and even some on their website. it may be that, I don't know. It's like there's so many specs you could list. They just kind of picked the top 20 or whatever. Like even when I'm doing like a wheel review, like anyone who's seen mine, I try to keep it more like focused on like the few key points, and I try to entertain you. But like someone like Marty, if you're the guy who needs the in-depth of every single spec, someone like Marty is going to do that for you. But I feel like they probably had to just pick like the stuff that they felt mattered the most.
But I thought because it's it's a revealing, why an unveiling of the product, why aren't they telling you everything? When Apple shows their new iPhone, they tell you everything there is to know that's new about the wheel in almost every way, right?
I mean, you just compare them to Apple. So, I mean, I don't think that these companies are like, I don't think that there's, we all agree it was impressive that there was like a keynote, as it were, for an electric unicycle, right? Like that's impressive as it is.
First time? Was that the first time that we saw anything like that? I think so.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. I don't recall anyone else ever doing that. So I usually it just gets like Kuji just goes, "Hey, here's the newest wheel." And that's how we knew.
that's how we find out through one video channel. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's impressive enough, but I still don't think that they're not as westernized as someone like Apple and aren't gonna be on par in certain areas. It's just like the mindset isn't completely the same from a Chinese company as it is with like a Western company. It's just not to say it's bad. They're just still different in the things that they might choose to focus on or promote, or like they're obsessed with safety. Where like the American Wild West spirit of me is like throw safety to the wind. Like let's just get the top speed, like the biggest, baddest.
Ian's even riding that fast. Like we've seen the French electric games, right? Like we saw some pretty nice tracks and some jumps and stuff, but that didn't seem all that extreme. I want to know if there are riders in that group that are like those New York City riders, that Vinny, like Alex, right? I believe that's his name, right? Like who are going fast, like that's a small market. So I don't think there's any point in going there. It'll only please those people. So
that's the drawback that we're all sort of seeing as like a thing right now. Like the MS Pro for me was they speed throttled compared to the MSX, which I think falls in line with what I've been projecting is like they're realizing there's only so far we could go with this speed thing. Like physically. And the fact that they kind of like capped it was like a whoa.
Okay, to make that clear, I think they could make it go faster, but they're unwilling to, and it makes perfect sense because physics exists.
Yeah.
You're still only on one wheel, You're still only on one wheel. And even if we do see technology develop where, perhaps if you hit a bump and the wheel's tilting forward, it'll bounce you back, you're still only on one wheel, You're still never going to be on four wheels, so you're still never going to have that stability, right?
Right. It's funny because I recently rode an Onyx bike, and it was very thrilling, and I kind of fell in love. But
are you buying one?
Like I can't afford one by a long shot. I'd have to have someone give it to me for free. But I went like 60 on that thing, and it just felt so safe.
So 60 miles or 60 kilometers?
Miles.
Damn.
Like, and it felt so safe, like a motorcycle or a car.
Yeah.
Because it's two wheels. So, yeah, you're completely right. Like when I've done over 40 miles per hour on my Nikola, you're not doing 40 the way, and you're not as comfortable as you would be at like say 20 miles an hour, right? Like at 20, like you can just casually not even think about riding and just like cruise along your neighborhood. At 40, I was in a specific place, very in tune to how fast I was going, knowing I just wanted to hit the number. Like I wasn't trying to.
That's the drive too, right? That's the drive, is to be so focused, right? Because it's such an engaging activity, right? That's why people ride motorcycles, right?
It's like piloting a plane, I always say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So going back, I think if we were to take anything away from the V11 launch is that we're seeing innovation. And I think innovation is going to bring a lot of new people to this. I think it's going to bring people who are a bit skeptical about this Chinese looking product, the way it looks, where it's going. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but I feel like it's just going to bring in a new audience, and with innovation will come better things, such as perhaps wheels not tilting off to the side when we're learning. So imagine if you can have a wheel that doesn't fall with that you could toggle on. Like it'll still turn, but it won't turn past like 30 degrees just because you're learning to balance on the wheel.
Yeah, doesn't
Ima-
Ninebot have like
we've
a
seen, yeah,
scooter
we've
that
seen
does that?
exactly. I don't know how it works. I'm not a scientist, or an engineer, but why can't we do that for an EUC? I mean, if they can fit it in a scooter, right? Can it fit also
Right.
on a EUC? Imagine that, because the minute that happens, we're going to see a lot more people, right? We do have older riders, but I think a lot of older riders would get into this if it's easier to learn, right? If they don't have to worry about falling on their head,
Right.
right? Okay, well,
Cool.
I've never ended a podcast before, but thanks, Mickey, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I have yet to plan the next episode, but hopefully, if
Can you
you,
tease your viewers about the new King Song wheels?
I cannot say anything. I cannot say anything. Actually, I'm probably going to edit that part out because
Will
no
they
one
be
is supposed to
pleased?
know. I can't say anything, but I mean, obviously you know, but
But King
there's I
Song
think
will come
only a
out
few
with a new
dealers.
wheel at some point. We're not saying it's soon or anything.
Oh my god, I'm already cutting this part out, so it doesn't even matter what
Eventually, King Song will have
it
a new
doesn't
wheel. That's
even
all we'll
matter
say.
what you say. Okay, well, thanks for joining me on this podcast. I do appreciate your time and helping me test everything. This is my first time doing a podcast, but hopefully next week, if you want to do this consistently, or we'll have someone else on the show, we can think about it. But this was kind of an impromptu podcast, I guess. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, you should call it the Electric Dreams podcast. I like that.
Electric Dreams, yeah,
Yeah.
I like it too.
And then next week
All
you
right.
should have Vinny on.
Vinny, all we'll talk about is speed. Next episode will just be top speed. That's all it'll be called.
He'll just show
All
up and
right.
call you slow and then hang up.
Oh my gosh, he's already done that. Actually, funny story. One thing before I go is I told Vinny that I got a job at King Song, right? And everyone had congratulated me, right?
Hmm.
This guy was like, tell them to go faster, and like we almost got into like a debate, like a heated debate about it. I was like, dude, you're the only person that didn't say anything positive. Like this is supposed to be about you congratulating me, like just saying something positive. It was just all negative. Like why?
Yeah,
Anyways,
like I was
okay,
like,
sorry.
I'm excited for you. I was like, that's cool,
Yeah,
man.
like anyways, I'm glad to be finally in this market. I hope to do great things for everyone in this community. But until next time, I'll see you guys around. Bye.
All right. All right.